All right, everybody, welcome in. Welcome back to the Phillip Jordan Show. And on Tuesday, excuse me, we talked Kentucky spring. They are done with their spring. Now we're going to talk Troy Trojans. They are in the midst of their spring. Of course, the spring game for them is on April 23rd, the T-Day game, the annual T-Day game. And joining me is John Johnson, Dothan Eagle Sports Editor. And John, I always appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure, Philip. I always enjoy visiting with you.
Oh yeah, it's always glad to have you on. And before we jump into Troy stuff, I want to congratulate you on I know Sports Illustrated put the 50 Legend of Alabama Sports Writer Association. So I just want to say congratulations on that. That was from last month.
Well, thank you very much. And a lot of guys that, I grew up with idolizing are on that list and a lot of friends throughout the state. So it is very humbling, and I appreciate you mentioning it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How did that all come about that you found out you was going to be on the list?
Well, this is the 50th anniversary of the association. And so they decided they wanted to do something special for the banquet this year, which is in June. And basically, you had to be nominated, and then the list was, finalized. And then, what they did was they released a couple of people each day for a month, and so it kind of built throughout the month. And I was just, like I said, excited to be a part of that. And I've been a part of that organization since 1985. So a lot of people, like I said, that I know. In the past that were a part of the organization are going in and or were recognized as legends, and then a lot of my friends. And so that's what makes it so special to me.
Absolutely. Just over the years, of course, being a Dothan, Dothan Eagle. What sport did any big moments stick out to you over your career?
I get asked that a lot, Philip, and I don't know if there's any just special ones that I can just nail down. I mean, because at a paper this size, you get to cover so many different things. From youth league sports to high school to college, athletics. So it's a wide range of things. You look back at you see state championships and youth leagues and high schools, and that's so important to me to see the athletes of our community do well and be a part of that and be a part of their lives in some way. And then you get to see the big college football games as well. Obviously, thankfully, I would say I'm appreciative that I've gotten to cover national championship games in football. You've been there at some of the biggest moments like the kick six at Jordan Hare and just things like all those kind of things. They stick out, and it's just I can't name one or two things. It's a combination of things. I've been very fortunate to cover at a paper this size. Like I said, you get to do so many different things, and that's why I really wanted to be at a paper this size. I realized that at kind of a early age that if you could be at a paper at this size, you get a chance to do a little bit of everything, but you also get a chance to be a big part of the community, or at least I hope I have been, and make a difference. And so that's what I've enjoyed about this journey at the Dothan Eagle.
And especially and I tell people one time the Dothan area is almost a great melting pot of fans because we're so close to the Florida line and the Georgia state line, so you got plenty of Florida State, Georgia, maybe a handful of Georgia Tech fans, and you
Yeah.
got Alabama, Auburn. Troy's right up the road. I mean, just an hour from where we're at, basically. It is a good, and all the good high school sports go in this area. And it's got to be too, when you've been in this area, you've been doing it as long as you have, just the relationships have got to be one of the fun parts over that time.
Without a doubt, because I can go to pretty much anywhere in the Wiregrass and know somebody, and that's really cool when you think about
Mhm.
it. From coaches or just people you meet at the schools or players or that kind of thing. Whether I'm going over to Kinston or Geneva County or Enterprise or wherever, you feel like if you have a flat tire on the road, you can call on somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's everybody knows somebody, and like I said, you can say, "How do you know me?" But you got those connections. That's why I like living here in the Wiregrass. It's such a great community.
Absolutely, and I'm to the point where I've been doing this a pretty long time now. It's like 37 years that I'm watching kids of kids I covered now, which is really cool. I say, oh, that kid that is the playing at Wicksburg now. I remember when his father played at Geneva County, and that's just really cool to see that kind of thing.
I'm sure it is. Jumping into Troy spring practice, of course, it's a new regime at Troy. John Summerall coming in was at Kentucky, was co-defensive coordinator there. Kentucky was one of the better defenses in the SEC last year. We talked about Kentucky here on the show the other day, and when that one they had like the top five SEC defense, and that's no small feat. But going from Chip Lindsey, John Summerall, and just real quickly, the Chip Lindsey era. I mean, they never won more than 5 games. Where do you think that just didn't work out for Chip?
I don't know the culture there. It was never really. It's just so different now, Philip. To be honest
Hmm.
with you, I don't know that I really noticed it while Lindsay was there, but you notice it that he's now that he's not there. And if that makes any sense, when I go to a Troy football practice now, the energy is so high, and there's so much competitiveness and fire between the coaches and the players. I mean, everybody's just going all out. And when you went to a Chip Lindsay practice, it was just a little different. It was a little more laid back. He didn't quite feel like that, not that he didn't have control, but it just didn't feel like everyone was moving on the same page, I guess. The athletes were there. I mean, if you
Hmm.
look back at last year, I would have thought before the season they were going to have a really strong year. Uh, and I think the same this year, and it's going to be many of the same athletes, but I think there's just a different mindset. I think they're getting after it like I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I think the recruiting was fine under Lindsey. I think the talent was fine. The Sun Belt's a really tough conference, so if you're a little off, you're going to fall down the line. And they were really close to being very, very good last year, but just a few points here and there, and it never happened for them. And I think the change was necessary, as you know, towards the end. I mean, how many times have you heard a coach booed at Troy? But
Yeah.
the last game at Troy, people were yelling down at him, and he was even yelling back up at him, and you knew
Yeah, that's
that was
not good.
it. And you knew it was it, and you don't see that very often. I've seen a real difference at spring practices. And one thing I've really noticed, Philip, and I went to practice a couple of Saturdays ago. They had Letterman back from past years. Everybody was invited back. And after the practice, they had whoever wanted to come down and say something, former Letterman. And it was really emotional. I mean, these were guys from like 30 years ago that were saying how proud they were to be a Troy Trojan, how proud they are of the team. Someone let everyone who wanted to speak. And you could just see a difference in what he's trying to create there is bring the past to the present and bring everybody together. And I think that's big that's big to Coach Summerall. Another thing that I've noticed that I did not notice with Lindsey practices, the practices I've gone to, there have been prospects there watching practices. He is bringing in lots of recruits just to be on the sideline and just see what we're about. And I think that's going to be really helpful in the recruiting process, this year and years to come, because he's really getting people involved early.
Yeah, and when you look back, pre Lindsey, I mean, you had two pretty beloved coaches there too. Talking about the Lindsey holler back at the fans. I mean, when you had Larry Blakeney and Neil Brown, I mean, those guys in Troy, they we talk about walking to somewhere. Those two are pretty looked at upon very highly. Obviously, fans love those two coaches. So that was and there was going to be pressure on Lindsey, but going into this team, yeah, I love quarterbacks. So is it pretty much a deal where Gunnar Watson is kind of, from what you've seen, looks like the guy that's going to be their quarterback, or could one of these new freshmen kind of push him? You think?
I thought going in, Gunnar Watson is absolutely the guy without a doubt. And I still would be shocked if he's not the starting quarterback because I think he's a good one. I think he's solid. He's got a good arm. He doesn't have a lot of speed or anything like that. But he can get the job done. He's proven that. What surprised me is how good Quade Hawkins is, a redshirt freshman who last year didn't play, or if he did, he maybe came in for a snap or two. Hawkins is a really strong kid from Bainbridge, Georgia, and he has all these passing records and things out of Bainbridge. And really impressive, Philip, how he throws the ball and gets the ball downfield. And he's got a lot more mobility than Gunnar. I feel like Gunnar Watson will be the starting quarterback. He's a junior. He's got the experience. But man, if he stumbles at all, Quade Hawkins absolutely could be the guy. And I think going forward, he's a guy to really keep an eye on. Kyle Toole has transferred out or went into the transfer portal. He was the number 3 guy. So really, it's been Watson and Hawkins all spring. With Toole really was behind them, and I think he saw the writing on the wall. There's a guy named Will Karn. He's not going to be a factor this year. I don't believe he's a redshirt freshman. And then the kid from Brantley coming in, Tucker Kilcrease, will be here
Mm-hmm.
in the summer. A good quarterback, but I mean, you don't expect him to be pushing for any kind of playing time really this year. So yeah, Gunnar Watson, a good solid quarterback, but Quade Hawkins is right there. I think they get two good ones really.
Yeah, and you look at Gunnar Watson. I know last year Taylor Powell come in, the Missouri transfer. There was some split time, but the year before that, I believe, he was fifth in the Sun Belt in passing, which that's no small feat because the Sun Belt is full of good quarterbacks. So I mean, he's shown that that ability to be good, and I think last year overall Troy was fifth in the conference in passing. So I mean, and they've got some weapons to us there as well. About the skill position players of Troy, who's standing out of what they got coming back? I know they got 10 starters returning from last year on that side of the ball.
Well, I think you're going to see a whole different style of offense this year because Summerall's he believes in running the ball first and passing second. Whereas with Lindsey, it was pass the ball all over the field. So, this helps the quarterbacks too because Gunnar Watson's not going to be expected to just, be tossing it around all over the field, or Quade Hawkins or whoever the guy is starting. They're going to be running the football a whole lot. And so that's going to be the key. And you got Kamani Vidal coming back as the star running back, but there's others there too. I mean, Jamontez Woods is a good running back. I think a guy who's going to be a difference maker this year that I've been waiting on for the last couple of years who hadn't done anything is Charles Woods Charles Strong. I knew that didn't sound right. Charles Strong, who transferred from Texas A&M. I think this is his third year there, and no one knows who he is really because he hadn't hardly had any touches. And I don't know if it was a situation where they didn't feel comfortable with him in the offense or what. But this spring he's gotten, when I've been there, he's been kind of like the second guy behind Vidal. And he's a big, strong running back that I think can get the tough yards inside. And he's someone that I think will be a real difference maker this year. I may be wrong, but I think keep an eye on him, Charles Strong, and behind Vidal and Jamontez Woods. Like I said, there's another running back I can't think of right now that Billingsley that was good last year as well. So they've got the weapons in the backfield. They've got still good receivers, and they're going to obviously get the ball downfield to some of those guys. But it's going to be run first this year, and I think a big key there is the offensive line. Obviously, if you're going to run first, you got to be able to block. And Dylan Bradshaw being gone, the Enterprise native that had been center there for the last couple of years and was so strong, that's going to be a real key to see who gets in that gap and plugs it. And you know how important a center is in an offense. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure who that's going to be yet, and I've got my list here because I'm still learning these guys. But Jake Andrews is a veteran who's been across the offensive line, and he's probably going to be the center. Or it looks like right now he's probably got the probably the guy that you're looking at to fill that role. And then they got Austin Stidham that's been around a while at tackle. So they've got some veteran guys, and but if you're going to run the football, you got to have the guys to block for them. So I think that's going to be a key going forward to see how they do and produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that center, he's basically the quarterback of the offensive line. I mean, he has so many responsibilities. So you get that guy straightened out, the red offensive line should fall into place. On defense, 9 starters returned, and they were a really good defense last year. Led the Sun Belt in sacks. They were top 5 in points per game allowed and yards allowed. And they've got a lot of guys coming back. Will Chilo, I know Carlton Marshall's coming back. I mean, they got guys in secondary. They've got a lot of good guys coming back. So, and it sounds like from what I've read on your reports from, some of the scrimmages at Troy, the defenses have had good days so far. They've led the way. So, what has been sticking out to you with this unit?
Without a doubt, this defense is going to be really, really good. I mean, and you said it, they got all these starters back from a good defense of a year ago. And this is where the schools like, let's say, a Troy aren't losing a lot of folks to the transfer portal, or they're having seniors that stick around, for their super senior years. So you got a lot of veterans. Carlton Marshall obviously is a small guy for a linebacker. But if he was playing for an Alabama or Auburn with his stats, he's gone pro. But you got guys like that aren't quite the level probably I'm not saying Carlton Marshall won't be an NFL player, but he's got a reason to come back and play another year and prove himself again and again and again. And Troy's got players like that. They're older guys that have been through it, and they're really good. And the thing I've seen at practices is, man, they're fast. They're all over the field. The secondary's been really good. One scrimmage, I think it was either like maybe, I know it was three. It was might have been four interceptions, and it was a short scrimmage. It was kind of like a half scrimmage that they did towards the end of practice. The secondary is going to be really strong. The line is strong, like you said, with people like Cholo and folks like that. Then you got Marshall and Jade McDonald, two of the guys at linebacker. You got good defensive ends, Richard Jibinor, who used to play at Auburn, and folks like that. Man, they're going to be good on. They're going to be very good on defense. So if they can punch the ball in some on this kind of offense that they want to run, I don't think they're going to score the kind of points that Troy's been trying to score in recent years. They're going to be more of a low-scoring offensive team, but I think they're going to base that around having a defense that can hold the opposition.
I know, and you had there was an article in Dothan Eagle about AJ Pierce, which is a local native for us here in the Dothan area. Where do you see him lining up with this unit?
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be first team, but he'll be right behind. I mean, and that's the thing. They're going to have good depth across the defensive line. AJ's been around there a little while now, and he's battled some injuries. I think he's finally healthy. They really like him, and he's gonna be a factor out there. He sure will.
Oh, finally, as I said, on the 23rd, T-Day at 4 o'clock, Troy will play their spring game. What are, we look at these spring games, obviously, you're going to be very vanilla offense, usually what you're going to see. You don't see a lot. But what would you be looking for when Troy plays their spring game on the 23rd?
I will be interested in seeing if they can move the ball against a very good defense on the ground, because that's what's going to be their bread and butter. And if it's kind of like when Alabama's Praxton. If that offense can move against that defense, on normally a really good Alabama defense, they're not going to see much better. I think of that in a lot of ways with Troy. If Troy can move against their defense in practice and do things against that defense, they ought to be able to do it against most of the people they play, because this is going to be one of the better defenses, if not the best, in the Sun Belt. And I think comparable to a lot of, SEC type schools. I really do think they're going to be really good on that side of the ball. So let's see if they can pound them. Let's see if they can move it between the chains. You're going to always get the passing, where you get the long pass here or there that you connect on. I think they're going to use the tight ends a lot more, and I think that will be interesting to look, to watch. There's a tight end that transferred from Sanford, and I can't recall his name right now, but they're sending him on a lot of long routes. And I mean, they're going to utilize their tight ends, so I think that's going to be a big part of the offense and something to look for as well.
It's going to be interesting. If you have a good defense travels. So when you go on these road games in the Sun Belt, and if the offense ain't clicking, the defense, like I said, defense in all sports, I believe, football, basketball, whatever sports you got, the defense usually travels. So I think it's an exciting time. I know a lot of energy, like I said, for Troy, new coach, John Sumrall, what he brings to the Troy Trojans. It's going to be interesting. And John, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show as always. I appreciate you coming on talking about the Troy Trojans. If the listeners or viewers wanted to follow you online, where can we find you, and how can they check out the Dothan Eagle?
Yeah, obviously, DothanEagle.com is our website. My Twitter is Eagle Sports Ed, and the Ed is for editor, to help you remember it. We have a Facebook page. If you do Facebook, it's Dothan Eagle Sports, or just look, or Dothan Eagle. There's two choices, because pretty much whatever is on our website ends up on Dothan Eagle Facebook, and I end up posting things on Dothan Eagle Sports. Also, there's a Troy Facebook page. It's Dothan Eagle Troy. So, I mean, if you want to even follow that, I post most of the Troy stuff on that. So there's a lot of different ways. And, of course, you can pick up the print edition around the Wiregrass. So there's a lot of avenues to follow us on. And, of course, we appreciate your business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm an online subscriber.
Absolutely.
So I check out
that more and more people are going online. So that's another avenue. Obviously, people want to read their news quickly on their phones or however on their computers. So yeah, online subscriptions really aren't that expensive. I'll put a plug in there, and that's kind of the way of the world now. So we need that. So appreciate that, Phillip, and anyone who is a subscriber, because we need your help to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to, and it helps me out during high school football season. Y'all do great coverage for that too. Troy coverage, I mean, all over the place. Great coverage by Dothan Eagle. overall. And John, this has been great. Like I said, having you on once again, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
Okay, thank you, Philip, and anytime.